You know, we were supposed to be filming at CHS Field in downtown St. Paul today to celebrate the changing of seasons and the arrival of spring. But like the post office, we have a service to deliver regardless of the weather. So let me get my notes in order, but in a minute we'll bring you a salute to women in EMS, discuss a trauma team activation research study, and debut a new segment to bring you some important EMS news and updates. So stay tuned, because I'm Dr. Peterson and you're watching Regions EMS Update. This month, we'd like to introduce a new segment to bring you local updates and EMS-related news in a more structured format. We'll be answering some questions from you, reviewing guideline updates, medication shortages, and process updates from our partner hospitals. So with that, from Studio 3A, here's what you need to know. The Regions Emergency Department would like to make you aware of an upcoming change that will impact patients headed for triage. You might start seeing a room hold on the monitor as APOD Coordinator Desk. If you see this, please stop and see the APOD coordinator so that they can get the patient arrived into Epic. Your patient should also transfer to a wheelchair at this time to keep your cots out of our limited arrival space in triage. If you are concerned the patient is not appropriate for triage, the coordinator will be able to contact the charge nurse for a room placement. We hope this change helps iron out some of our triage flow issues and helps get your teams back on the streets a bit quicker. So thanks for your help in this process. Many of you are aware of St. Paul Fire's Station 51 program, which provides free EMS training opportunities to low-income, minority, and female students who live in the city of St. Paul. We have learned that some of these students have a hard time obtaining uniforms due to the cost. The program only provides one pair of pants and one t-shirt per student, but we know that many of you have used or outgrown uniform items lying around. Please consider donating any used but functional EMS pants, belts, shoes, etc. to the EMT students at Station 51. These items can be dropped off here at Regions EMS in Oakdale during business hours, and we will make sure it gets to the right hands. Fortunately, we have no new medication shortages to report on this month. There are still some ongoing issues with cardiac 1 to 10,000 epi preload syringes, so many of you have been receiving the brown bag epi kits with your medication orders that require you to dilute a vial of 1 to 1,000 epi with the included syringe. Ketamine is loosening up again, so the 5 milliliter vials are becoming available. Make sure you always check the concentration to verify that you are giving an appropriate dose. Changing gears now, it's not a fun topic, but you can expect to see an increase in suicide attempt calls in the months of April and May. For whatever reason, spring tends to be the time of year that suicide rates peak, rather than during the winter, as you might think. Keep this in mind and keep an eye out for any of your colleagues who might be showing signs of depression. You can check out our June 2018 update video for an overview of a free mobile app from ImageTrend called Crew Care that some of you might find useful. And finally, to end on a positive note, I'd like to give a shout out to our first service of the month, Spring Valley Area Ambulance, serving the village of Spring Valley, Wisconsin and surrounding area. This is a volunteer BLS service directed by Todd Jorgensen and performs about 220 calls for service each year. Like many rural communities, they are struggling with recruitment, retention, finances, and staffing. So we want to recognize their efforts and the selfless work that each of their volunteers donates every day. To nominate an agency for next month's update video, you can reach out to us at emseducation@healthpartners.com. That's it for now. Stay tuned for more right after this break. We may have gotten a little behind in our video production the last few months, But we haven't been completely out of it. Last month, we celebrated International Women's Day by sitting down with a group of female EMS professionals to discuss their experiences as EMS professionals in today's society. Thanks to everyone who participated, and especially to our very own Dr. Carrie Haley, who hosted the discussion. Check this out.
Hi, I'm Dr. Carrie Haley with Regions EMS. I'm here today with a number of my fellow women of EMS to celebrate International Women's Day. March 8th has been International Women's Day and celebrated since 1977. Each year there is a campaign theme, and this year we celebrate #Balance for Better. We are here today to honor and celebrate the contributions women have made to the profession of EMS and to recognize the women here who make a difference every day. Today we are lucky to have providers from a number of our agencies across the East Metro area. These women are street-level providers, educators, leaders, administrators, and physicians. We are all EMS.
The best part of my job is the people I work with. Every day I get to work with some really awesome men and women who are strong and independent, and they love their job and they love taking care of people, and that's another part I love as well.
Women have a unique ability with their empathy and their ability to care for the whole person.
I think the diversity helps with patient care, just being able to understand a patient's experience from more than one viewpoint.
I became interested in EMS for a couple of reasons, one of which is because I really don't have the personality to be someone that's in the same building every day working, and I really like the something's different every day aspect of EMS especially. And another reason is that when I was a child, there were multiple instances where we had some family emergencies that made me very uncomfortable knowing that I didn't know what to do, and I just never wanted to have that feeling ever again.
Initially, I wanted to do nursing, pediatric oncology after my sister passed. And then I had a good friend of mine that told me that St. Paul Fire was putting on an EMS academy. And I went and did it in like 3 weeks in, and I was like, no, this is definitely like where I should be.
So I think that finding female mentorship, if it's available, is very helpful. But when it isn't, to kind of forge a path with finding the people that are willing to give you a hand up. There's always somebody that is going to be helpful for you, but you have to ask for it.
I actually met one of the medical directors in my program, Dr. Katie Davidson, and she became my role model as I trained.
My advice for a young girl going into EMS, I think EMS creates your personality and makes you stronger, and it definitely gives you the opportunity to go into other facets of medicine and EMS. You know, you can start in EMS, and I think it just shows you a whole new world, and people go on to nursing, they go on to do all sorts of things. I think it's a great place to start and develop yourself.
The best part of my job is meeting new people and getting to know their different personalities and backgrounds and learning about them.
I think the most important thing I would tell a young woman entering EMS is that the only person they have to convince is themselves. And that once you believe that you're going to be really good at this and you can deliver exceptional patient care, then the rest just falls into place. Nothing can stop you once you believe in yourself.
Follow your heart and to never give up and stay confident no matter what, because there were many times that I doubted myself, that I wasn't strong enough, and I feel like this is the biggest accomplishment of my life. So never give up.
How do you decide when to request a trauma team activation? Is it a gut feeling, or do you think through the list of criteria each time it comes up? You don't actually have to answer that, but did you know that Regions Hospital has 16 trauma team activation criteria, most of which have been in place and essentially unchanged since the trauma program started in the mid-90s? Dr. Michael McGonigal, trauma surgeon and trauma medical director for Regions Hospital, would like to examine our criteria to see how we can make them better and more accurately predict those patients who will need the specialized resources of a trauma team. He stopped by the studio recently to present his idea. Here's what you need to know.
My name is Michael McGonigal. I'm the Trauma Medical Director at Regions Hospital, and I'm going to provide some information on a new research study that we will be doing at Regions that does involve you, and we need your assistance in that. When we built the Trauma Center starting in 1993, we developed 16 trauma activation criteria. Actually, at the time, there were only 15. And for the most part, they are pretty much the same as they were when we actually started using them in 1994. About 15 years ago, we added the 16th, which is EMS judgment, meaning that we allow pre-hospital providers to call a trauma activation. What we want to do now is to really take a critical look at those criteria to figure out which ones are good, which ones are not so good, so we can tweak them and make them even better. We obviously require your help, and we've put this together and we have it cleared by our review board so that we can successfully do this study. What I wanted to do was just very quickly go through the 16 criteria so that you're kind of refamiliarized with them. We divide them into categories. The first category is physiologic criteria. These are things where people are not breathing, they're in shock, they're in arrest, they have a GCS less than 14. One that's a little bit different and is a relatively new addition is any patient who is being transported to us with a blood transfusion in progress, which usually means they're being transferred from another facility. We have a group of anatomic criteria, and these are specific injuries that your patient may have, such as flailed chest, a depressed skull fracture, focal neurologic deficits, such as a blown pupil or inability to move something. And one caveat I would add here is that sometimes these patients may seem like they've had a stroke, but if there's the possibility that it's a stroke or trauma, then always go with the trauma first. Don't call a code stroke for those. If they have an abnormal, suspicious abdominal exam, any major vascular injury where they have absent or diminished pulses in one particular extremity, if they have proximal long bone fractures, 2 or more, and those mean the femur and the humerus, and finally amputation that is proximal to the wrist or the ankle. We only have 2 mechanism criteria, and they really deal with penetrating injury. Either they have a major penetration to the face and head, and by major I mean something more than a scratch, a gunshot, a knife that is still stuck in their head, etc. If they have a gunshot or a stab to any other part of the torso, neck, chest, abdomen, or groins, that's also an activation criterion. Finally, we have 2 judgment criteria. Number 16 is EMS judgment, that's you. So if you have a patient that doesn't seem to meet any of those other criteria, but given your experience and your level of suspicion, you think that they really would benefit from the team, then it's EMS judgment. Similarly, if the patient arrives and they haven't been called a trauma activation and they don't meet any of those criteria, yet the emergency physician looks at them and has the same thoughts, then they can trigger one of those activations. We expect this to take about a year so that we can get the numbers to see what kind of improvements we can make and what kind of differences this will make. And obviously, once we're finished, we will come back and provide information on everything we've learned from it. You may see that we ultimately end up changing some of those criteria to make them better. If you have any questions, please reach out either to Bjorn or myself, and we will certainly try to answer them. Thank you very much.
That will do it for this month. If you haven't already, subscribe to our social media sites for EMS-related news, and don't forget to download our Regions EMS Guideline app from our website for real-time guideline references and updates. From the Regions EMS Update Studio, I'm Dr. Peterson. Stay smart, stay safe, and stay professional. Thanks for watching.